Hello, citizens of the world. I'm the Archivist, and together we will today learn about the catastrophic invasions of the Gutians of nowadays Iran, grave diggers of the old Akkadian kingdom. We will also see the downfall of the old kingdom of Egypt. Let's jump into this fourth part of the entire history of war. In 2255 BC, Pepi I, pharaoh of Egypt, ends his reign after consolidating its grasp over Nubia, gold-rich land to the south of Egypt. Since 2289, the start of his reign, Pepi has also quelled several revolts, led 5 campaigns against Bedouins over here, and another with his army master Uni through Sinai and Canaan up to Byblos, Gebal at this epoch. A little bit northward over there, we can see it on the map of Mesopotamia around here. This city will very temporarily be taken from the Egyptian grasp by Amorites of nowadays Syria somewhere during the next century. Ending with Pepi, he offered more autonomy to Egyptian regions, the nomes, which will lead to growing appetite from the nomarchs, leaders of these regions. The following year is possibly the end of the reign of Manishtushu, the king of Sumer and Akkad in Mesopotamia. Like his preceding brother, he got assassinated. Since roughly 2774 BC, Manishtushu had campaigned against Anshan and Sherikum, perhaps in nowadays Iranian Fars, before crossing the Persian Gulf with his fleet. In Magan, nowadays Oman, he had defeated a coalition of 32 local cities, or 38. Some historians wonder if, rather than Magan, the expedition had rather reached Kerman towards southern Iran. Manishtushu's son and successor, Naram-Sin, whom you can see here, a possible mask, starts his long reign facing numerous revolts in all Sumer and Akkad. The cities of Kish, Nippur, and Uruk are notably tamed. In 2250 BC, Naram-Sin the Akkadian king scores a victory over Abel-Gamash of Waroshe and Kita of Elam. The main city of Elam, Awan, is submitted, like Susa, here or soon after. Anshan, other lead city of that land, is untouched. However, quite some time later, in 2218, Naram-Sin, grandson of Sargon the Ancient, king of Sumer and Akkad, and the Four Quarters, as he styled himself, dies. Somewhere in his reign, he attacked Marie of the Double Rampart, Aleppo, Ebla, Armanum, not on the map, of the Triple Rampart, all this in Amuru, nowadays Syria. He defeated 10 to 17 coalized kings, among them a certain Pemba of Hatti. Hatti? Does this ring a bell to any of you? I give you a clue. Hattis is in the heart of Anatolia, nowadays Turkey. Make your bets in the comments down below as to what very famous people we will meet soon in Hatti. So, Zipani of Kanesh, also king in Anatolia, was defeated by Naram-Sin II. The Akkadian king also vanquished King Manium of Magan, nowadays Oman, the city of Apishal by mining the walls, and Hurrians in the north of Mesopotamia, where he built a fortress in Nagar, in nascent Subatu. Lastly, he fought the aggressive Gutians and Lulubis of Mount Zagros. The stele here showing his victory over supplicating King Satuni of the Lulubis. As soon as he is enthroned as new king of the Four Quarters, Sarkali-Sari of Akkad must fight off an Amorite attack, the first of several. Soon after, he repulses a siege of Akshak, north of Akkad, by Elamites. They grow so bold, though, that the governor of Susa, Puzur in Shushinak, dares declare himself king of Awan, and of the Four Quarters. And why not, after all? 8 years later, a Gutian king, Eridopuzir, scores a victory against the Lulubis, all that in mountains of Zagros. He styles himself king of Gutium and of the I let you guess, the four quarters, yes, of course, how inventive. Both his Gutians and Lulubis will regularly attack Akkadian lands, where Sarkalisari won't be able to save Nagar from destruction. The Akkadian tries to counterattack against them, but they consolidate in the plains close to the Tigris River. This river. At least, Sarkalisari is rid of Puzur in Shushinak, the Elamite king, possibly losing his throne to a Gutian aggression. For his records, Puzur in Shushinak quelled rebellions in the cities of Kimash and Hortum. It is worth noting that some historians believe that he lived later than this time and that he conquered Eshnuna while fighting Urnamu and Gudea, two lovely sires that we will meet soon enough. Around 2195 BC, Sarkalisari of Akkad manages to capture Salagab, Gutian king of the time menacing Akkad itself, buying some months or small years of respite. Unfortunately for Sumer and Akkad, Sarkalisari dies, assassinated in a coup. 2 years later, Dudu, son of late Sarkalisari, manages to sit on the throne of Akkad after some difficulties. But the hour is dire. Gutians resume their attacks, the city of Adab being sacked. And in the kingdom, Uruk and Lagash declare themselves independent. The end is nigh for Akkadian kings of Semite ethnicity of Sumer and Akkad. In 2175 BC, Dudu of Akkad dies. Its empire of the four quarters was reduced to the capital itself, the Gutians having conquered almost all. Dudu's son, succeeding him for a dozen years or so, will flee to Uruk in the south of the country. Mesopotamian city-states fight one another, and kings of the old Sumerian ethnicity will reign again for some time. 2152 is the end of Pepi II of Egypt long reign, since 2246, mind you. You see him here, well, kind of, and his queen. Pepi II faced revolts provoked by weak Nile floods and fed by quarreling nomads' ambitions. It is a time of unrest, the end of the Old Kingdom, and the start of the first intermediate period. After the very short reign of Queen Nitocris, the 7th dynasty begins with a weakened pharaonic power. Until 2065 BC, several rival dynasties will rule simultaneously, while uprisings and foreigner attacks will multiply. Just about 2 years later, possible environs of a defeat of one king Ur-Utu of Uruk against Gutians. In 2144 BC reigns Gudea of Lagash, over here, temporary dominant city in Sumer and Akkad. He rules for 20 years, subdues Adab, local city, and leads a successful expedition against Elam and Anshan. All that despite the Gutians that are still present in force in Mesopotamia. After Gudea, Lagash loses strength, and one of its future kings, Namahane, will be submitted by Ur-Nama of Ur. 2130 BC now. Around here, the time of Pharaoh Neferkare VII of the 11th dynasty, which is only one of several ongoing dynasties in the country, remember? The nomarch of Nekhen, Anktifi, claims himself great lord of his nome, said of the fortress in Upper Egypt. He allies with the nomarch of the bow, that is to say Nubia, ruling in Abu, and together they go to war against two other nomes situated north of them, the nome of Waset or Thebes, called the nome of the Spectre, and the nome of Coptos or Kift, just north of Nagada, and called the nome of Falcons. We only suppose that Enctifi or his successor were defeated without any of the weak pharaohs trying to interfere. Here are some wooden figures representing soldiers of one nomarch, Meshepti, In his tomb were found figurines of Egyptian spearmen and Nubian archers. It seems that also copper and bronze were used in Egypt at the time. Weapons were still mostly made of stone for common soldiers until the end of the first intermediate period. Let's go to 2118 BC now. Utu-Higal, king of Uruk, south of Mesopotamia, manages to kick the Gutians out of Mesopotamia at last. Gutians are under their last king, Tirigan. Gutians slowly fade away from history after this. Utu-Higal of Uruk reigns over Sumer and Akkad until the end of the decade. In the same time, Antef II, pharaoh of the Theban 11th dynasty, gets to power, and during his reign, that runs up to 2069, he battles at least once against Keti II of the 9th dynasty of Henensu, near Thinis and the Wadi of the Blessed. 2112 BC. Ur-Nama, governor of Ur and former general of Utu-Higal of Uruk, dethrones him. He soon takes Nippur, and at his peak, as king of Sumer and Akkad, he will reign over 23 cities. He establishes a professional army and will sometime during his reign campaign against the Hurrian king Tishatal of Urkesh in nowadays Syria, probably. If you remember the legendary exploits of Gilgamesh of Uruk that we spoke of in the second video of this series, this is the time when the story was written. The following year, Ur-Nammu of Ur submits Namahani of Lagash. The two cities are close to each other. And in 2095 BC ends the reign of Ur-Nama, when he possibly dies fighting some Gutians abandoned by his army. His son Shulgi takes over as new Sumerian king of Sumer and Akkad and the Four Quarters. He was an excellent fighter and launched almost yearly campaigns during the second half of his reign. And we will jump right to the 24th year of this long reign, 2071 BC. Now is where Shulgi is preparing for military campaigns. He will from here on lead 11 in northern Mesopotamia, submitting the Hurrians of Subatu and maybe the nascent Assyrian people. More on them in future videos. Shulgi also wars against Elam and Anshan, taking Susa. Finally, maybe he led one expedition in Canaan, nowadays Palestine. And signing out for today, we'll meet Assyrians and say farewell to Sumerians in the next video, and Egypt will reunite starting the Middle Kingdom. See you there, as subs to the channel of course. Bye bye.